I'm gonna get started. I'm gonna spend a couple minutes just doing a quick intro.
Sure.
And then I'll turn the time over to you, Terry.
Brilliant.
So just to welcome everybody, super excited about having Terry with us today. He's going to be discussing the effective mindset strategies for running longevity. This is actually a really cool subject that I'm excited to participate and listen to you, Terry.
Me too.
Me too. Like
Yeah.
it. Really quick, an introduction from of myself. I'm Eli Kerr. I'm the CEO at Gnarly Nutrition, and I get the opportunity to be able to intro the clinic and hang out today. I've got to introduce a bunch of the clinics actually, and have participated in most of them, and have really loved the clinic. So for those of you who don't know, Gnarly Nutrition is an all-natural NSF certified sports nutrition company. We really make products that are designed for athletes who care, what goes on in their bodies and what they put in their bodies. We've tried to make, products that also taste really delicious. And if you go onto our website and look at the reviews for a number of our products, that's one of the things people really love, is that not only do we create a really quality product that's natural and efficacious, but we're also freaking delicious. Right, Terry?
I completely agree with you.
Yes.
It's like from the first moment that I tried Gnarly Hydrate, then it was like I was just blown away. It was it was the first product, hydration product that I tried, which actually tasted good. And once I got to know your products more and kind of found out more about what you were about, then I was really interested in partnering with you. So you're doing a great job. And just for anybody else out there that's not only the hydrate, I also use the BCAAs and the vegan protein powder too. So and I just got hold of some collagen. So thank you for sending that, Eli. And myself and my wife are looking forward to giving that a whirl. So I'll let you know.
Good. I can't wait to have you tell me and give me some feedback on that. That's one of the cool things about these clinics that we've been doing. They're really focused on, the clinic that you're doing today and the other clinics are really focused on spending, as we grow older in our sports, we want to make sure that we are preparing our bodies and taking care of our bodies so that we can continue to do the things that we love to do. Yeah. And all the clinics have been focused on this, and we've lumped all of these different clinics and the approaches into this theme called longevity in sport. And it's really, focused on preventing injuries, dealing with injuries, recovery tips. And so that during these clinics is when we actually launched this new product that Terry just mentioned, which is our Collagen Pro. And for those of you that don't know, collagen really helps with injury prevention and the repair of, soft tissues in the bodies, tendons, ligaments, general joints, and so forth. And really the hope is, by using this product that you'll be able to do more of what you love and prevent injury and also come back from injury when you have experienced injury. And one of the cool things about participating in these clinics is that we're recording this, and so everybody will get the recording emailed to them tomorrow. And in that email, you also get a sweet little discount on Collagen Pro. Whoa. And another little free gift that we're giving. So that's pretty cool.
Snap that up, Eli. Yeah.
Something else that's really cool is during the time that we're doing these clinics, we have this really cool giveaway that we're doing. 3 different packages, all worth $1,000, that are all focused on recovery products. We've got a bunch of great brands that we've partnered with, from like Avid, who creates the muscle massage guns, to we have another company called Joshua Tree, which does a recovery lotion. there's a bunch of other stuff, as well as an opportunity to win some gnarly products as well, including the Collagen Pro. So you'll want to check out our website and check out that giveaway. It's a phenomenal opportunity. Another thing really quick before we do the final intro and turn the time over to Terry. If you enjoy this clinic and learn something, we really hope that if you're involved in social, that you'll take a screenshot, share something that you learned from Terry today and post it on social media and tag us. The other thing is, as you end this clinic today, you'll have the quick opportunity to just fill out a small survey where you can give Terry some feedback, and you can also provide some feedback to us. We basically want to know how valuable this kind of information is for you, and if we should continue to provide clinics like this. So again, if you're just joining us, we are about to start the effective mindset strategies for running longevity with Terry Chiplin. And this clinic really covers the key factors that athletes have at their control that will enable them to focus on mindset strategies that support running longevity, rather than creating roadblocks that inhibit progress and consistency as we age. So Terry's really going to dive into what that all means. And I'm really excited because we've chatted a little bit about what he's going to be covering. Just a quick intro to Terry, and then I'm going to turn the time over to him. Terry is a 66-year young Brit that relocated to Estes Park, Colorado in 2006 to follow his dreams and to start a business, Active at Altitude. He's an avid trail runner, endurance coach, and mindset specialist who leads women running camps and trail running camps in Colorado. He also organizes the U.S. Trail Running Conference. He is the visionary behind activacuity, an app for runners that provides all the tools needed for positive training program for the mind. Terry also created mindset programs for runners that have received rave reviews. Active at Altitude is the official training partner for vacation races. He was also an official partner of Gnarly Nutrition. And one of the races that I was just mentioning earlier that I ran, the Antelope Canyon 50, superb races. And obviously from, Terry, from the description of Terry, he's capable and the perfect person to be able to talk to us about mindset as we continue on and age and want to maintain longevity as runners. Terry, I'm gonna turn the time over to you. I want to make sure that everybody knows that there is an opportunity to ask Terry any of the burning questions that he doesn't fully cover during his presentation. There's a little Q&A button down at the bottom, and you can submit your questions through there. Terry, I'm going to be right here. I'm going to fade into the background and give you control.
Okay.
But one of the things that I'm going to stay here and help do is manage those questions. Okay.
Oh, cool. Good. Thank you.
So,
and Eli, thank you so much. I mean, apart from having me participate in this, that I just think the whole idea that you're doing in terms of longevity in sport, I think is so important. And so, yeah, I'm really proud of what you're doing, mate. You're doing a great job.
Thanks, Terry. That means a lot. I really appreciate it. The feedback has been tremendous, and it's making us consider doing something like this on a at least an annual basis. It's been really fun to participate in, cool. and everyone is so excited about the content that our experts have been delivering. So thank you for being here and participating in it.
Excellent. Okay, am I okay to share my screen now?
Yep, it's all you.
Okay, so let's get this up. Whoa, okay. So can you see that okay, Eli, from your end?
Yep. Looks great, Terry.
Brilliant. Okay. Yeah, so Eli, thank you so much for the introduction. And this is a picture of me on a winter's day. This was 5 years ago, right about now, actually. And I'm holding our puppy dog Coco, and he's now 5 years old, a bit over 5 years old, and so he's quite a bit bigger than that. But I'm going to mention kind of more about him in a little bit. But yeah, I just wanted to run through first what I'm going to cover during my session today. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about me, but Eli, thank you so much for that kind introduction. I'm going to talk about how important it is for us to consider mindset and the way we think, and especially that thoughts become things. And then how to love yourself. Yeah, so I think it's a really important thing that we learn to love ourselves, and that's something that aging has certainly taught me. The importance of play, and this is where I'm going to mention Coco, because his whole life really is based around play, and it's a shame we don't do more of it ourselves. Then living in the present moment, so the really importance of being able to be in the present moment. And then lastly will be inspiration. You know, we have plenty of examples about inspiration around us in terms of longevity in sports and running, but I want to share one in particular. And lastly, our mindset program. So assuming we have enough time, then I also want to touch on the mindset programs that we have as well. So a little bit about me. So 66-year young Brit. I love Eli, that description. And that really is a kind of a lead into the way we think, the kind of mindset we have is really important, and can really color everything else that we do in our lives. Been here for now, as Eli said, 2006 we moved here, and currently living in Estes Park, Colorado, which for those of you that don't know is just outside of Rocky Mountain National Park. It's just an incredible place to live, and yeah, certainly living the dream right now. My background, I've always loved running. I've just my parents, bless them, are both passed on now, but I like to say that they can't argue with this now, that I like to say that I could run before I could walk, and running has been a big part of my life for well, really I'm now 66. I had kind of 10 years off the rails when I discovered sex and drugs and rock and roll when I was 18, and then I woke up one day when I was 28 and was like, if you carry on doing what you're currently doing, you're not going to have a long, healthy life. And I thought, what did I used to enjoy doing that I'm not doing anymore? And the first thing that came into my head was running. And so I put some trainers on, went out the door, and I call myself a born-again runner. That was now 38 years ago. And endurance running has been my passion now for 38 years. I also became a student of the sport. At age 38, I went to university and kind of decided that that I wanted to immerse myself in something that I love doing. And so I studied a sports science degree back in England, and my major pathways were sports psychology and sports physiology. And the sports psychology was fantastic. Really, really enjoyed it. And then after a number of serendipitous events kind of fell into place, then in 2006, we moved out to Colorado, and I was able to base my life around what I love doing. Back in my previous life in England, then I was in the car industry, automotive industry, a sales consultant, and it was paying the bills, but it wasn't what I loved doing. And I just couldn't wait to, much as I was like when I was a kid, I just couldn't wait to get out and do some running. And as Eli said, then I'm the director for, we do women's running camps and trail running camps in Colorado. We've got 7 camps lined up for next year. We have a few places left on, I think, all the camps at this moment. Certainly if you want any more information on those camps, then I'd be happy to add more about that. They also organize the US Trail Running Conference, and this is actually the hat from last year. And we've just set the dates for October 27th to 30th, and it's going to be in Fayetteville, Arkansas next year. And then I've also created a portfolio of mindset programs for runners. And that's been a really important part of kind of my journey as a coach and as an athlete, the importance of mindset. So I'm really excited to be sharing some of this with you now. So thoughts become things. And I want to give a shout out here to a guy called Mike Dooley. And he's really kind of focused in on these three words: thoughts become things. Yeah, really recommend if you're into kind of inspirational things, this www.tut.com. You can sign up for his daily newsletter there, and he comes up with some really amazing, incredible stuff. Now, thoughts become things. I want to kind of reframe that in a sense that one way to kind of illustrate the how important our thinking is, our imagination is that everything that we have created as a species was imagined first. So, you know, this phone here that I'm holding up, that it's like somebody imagined how this was going to look, how it was going to work, how it's going to function. Somebody imagined it first. You know, the house that I'm living in, the television downstairs, this computer that I'm using here. Everything that we use that has been created by mankind was imagined first. And so that gives you a kind of really good example of how incredibly powerful the human imagination is. And however, we're not always necessarily very good at using our imagination in positive ways. So, you know, to give you an example, then, you know, if for a lot of athletes that I work with, then one of the major problems that they have is I think we all do this to some extent, is we get nervous and anxious before a race. And so we start to imagine what could go wrong. Yeah, what's likely to happen? You know, what kind of roadblocks can we create for ourselves? And we're very good at creating roadblocks for ourselves individually. But our imagination is incredibly, incredibly powerful. And the key thing here is that it's a great idea to make steps towards the outcome that you seek. And the most important part of that is then to focus on what you want and not what you fear. And fear is currently, well, in our society for a while, has been a kind of major focus. And it's so easy to fall into the trap, if you like, of following what you fear, you know, what you're afraid of, what you think might happen, rather than focusing on what you want. Yeah? So before I move on to how to love yourself, then what I wanted to do was to run through a short imagery session with you guys. And so I'm kind of hoping that that you're in a situation where you can get yourself comfortable, because what we're going to do is we're going to do a short meditation and then an imagery session. And this is only going to take a few minutes, but I really wanted to kind of get you in touch with how powerful your imagination can be, especially if you use it in a positive, directed way. Yeah. So if everybody's ready for this, and Eli, I'd love you to join in there as well in Utah. Then what I'd love you to do to start is I want you to take 3 big, deep breaths and really fill your lungs up and really reach down with your belly. So hold it for a couple and then one more. Hold it for a couple and then last one. Hold it for a couple and then just allow your breathing return to normal. And as you do that, then at the same time, just allow your eyes to gently close now. And just notice right now how good it feels just to feel your body breathing. How good it feels to feel that air, that life-giving oxygen enter into your lungs and then spread out through your body. And then I'd like you to just start counting your breathing. So count each in-breath as one, each out-breath as one, count up to 10 and then start over again. And we'll cycle through this like 2 or 3 times. So I'll keep quiet, but then listen out for me coming back in. And now I'd like you to think about something that you really want to do that you have never done as yet. And I'd like you to imagine that you're doing it, whatever it is, right now. And just allow yourself to fill in all the details, whatever your imagination wants you to place in this movie, in this image, in this video. And just really connect yourself, immerse yourself in this experience. And just notice how good it feels to be doing whatever it is you're doing. And then just think about for a moment what you needed to do to get here. And then just think about what you had to give up or let go of in order for this to happen. And just really notice how good it feels to be where you are in your imagination right now. Everything is there for you. And now bring your attention back to your breathing again. And we're going to take three big deep belly breaths again. So number one, hold it for a couple, and number two, hold it for a couple, and the last one, hold it for a couple, and then whenever you're ready, gently open your eyes and get yourself back to the screen or whatever you're watching. And yeah, really hope you enjoyed that that short imagery session. And I specifically chose the subject of doing something that you really wanted to do that you haven't done yet. Because one of the things that's really important, I think, about looking after ourselves and making sure that we look after our longevity is following our dreams as well. So, how to love yourself. So the human side of human beings. So what I mean by this is that I think we're inherently born to be loving and carefree and passionate and considerate and empathetic and compassionate and all of these things. But then sometimes in our lives, we learn through experience to kind of build walls around us and protect ourselves. And so sometimes that can mean that we end up hurting ourselves in some way. Sometimes it means that we end up hurting other people. However, I believe it's really important for us to remember that underneath it all, we are all human beings, and our true state is love, and our ability to love not only ourselves but each other as well. And of course, to truly love somebody else, to fully love somebody else, you first need to love yourself. And so, you know, how can we work on that? How can we identify that? Well, one way we can tell is by the way we talk to ourselves. And so internal dialogue is such an important kind of pointer, if you like, for how we feel about ourselves, because, you know, if there's kind of different descriptions of it, but I've often heard it said that you know, if we need to talk to ourselves in the same way that we would talk to somebody else that we loved and respected. And so that's a really important piece and a really important pointer for me is kind of helping people to listen to what they're normally saying to themselves and writing things down. So I think a journal here is really important point to. So I encourage athletes that I'm working with to keep a journal and to write down the kind of interactions they have with themselves. The next part is that I think it's really important for us to develop the ability to listen to our bodies as a runner or as an athlete. And so that, we can often be in our society, we're so impatient to be somewhere else other than where we are. We're always in a rush to be somewhere different. And of course, that's not really a useful thing to do, because in terms of developing our ability to listen to our body, then it's like, okay, that means we need to stay present, which means we need to stay here in the present moment. And one of the things I love as an endurance coach is I'm actually a Lydiard certified coach, and Arthur Lydiard was an incredible coach, one of the most successful coaches in history, and his principles still live on to this day. But back in the last century, that he had tremendous, incredible results with athletes of all kinds of abilities. And one of the things I really love about Arthur Lydiard is that he was one of the few coaches that I know who would use the same principles to produce an Olympic or world champion, or he'd also use the same principles to work with runners, or sorry, with ordinary people that have been through cardiac surgery, and then get them training as marathoners as part of rehabilitation, and actually get them to be marathon runners. And that was a really kind of great example for me of the principles that he uses in terms of coaching can work for anybody. And so one of the ways we need to do this in terms of developing our ability to listen to your body is we need to spend some time running easy, and to learn to love your body and what it can do. And it kind of sounds counterintuitive, and maybe you've seen training programs that are based around this, but most runners that I work with, the hardest thing initially, for sure, is to get them to maybe run a little bit slower than they're used to. But once we do that, then we can start to work on developing the cardiovascular system, becoming an aerobic engine, building that aerobic engine. But in order to work on that, then we need to spend time focused on that area and learning to run easy rather than run hard, and learning to love your body and then what it can do. And the important point here is that it's so easy, especially if we're an athlete following some kind of training program, that the program itself has no way of knowing, it doesn't have a connection with you as an athlete in terms of what your current status is. So, for me this morning, then I went on a fabulous run this morning. But I was saying to Eli a bit earlier that it was in terms of wind chill here in Estes Park, it was about 3 or 4 degrees. And so it's like, okay, I know several things are going to happen. One, is going to take me longer to warm up. And two, even when I do warm up, then it's just, I like to run in shorts all year round. And so I had a kind of suspicion that my legs were going to be cold with the wind chill. And so it was like, okay, I was actually thinking to play a little bit with speed and do a fartlek session. But I ended up just dialing it back because it just was more appropriate, I think, in the situation, to just have a slightly easier run. And then, of course, that also helps to maintain consistency. And something else here is letting go of what you can't control. So, for me this morning, then it was like, I can't control the weather. I can control, what I do in terms of responding with the shoes that I wear, the clothes that I wear, and those kind of things. But at the end of the day, it's like the air temperature is not something I can really control that much. And so it was really important to, I think, to realize that there are some things that we cannot control. And so developing and learning the ability to actually let go of those things. And then the importance of play. Okay, so play is, I think, a really important part of our lives, and play is our natural way of being, and combined with the power of laughter. And it's such a shame, I think, that we can learn a lot from children and animals. Certainly, I love my time interacting with Coco, our puppy dog. Um, that he just loves to play. He's, I mean, apart from the time when he's resting, then the rest of and eating, then the rest of his time is spent. He wants to be playing, and so he's looking for ways to kind of involve play in terms of what we're doing. And as adults, we tend to lose touch with our ability to play spontaneously. And I think that's a real shame, because I think it's something that is really important for us, and also helps us keep connected with the young person inside of us. And I think it's also important to recognize that we can decide not to lose contact with that young person. So I was for sure. I was one of those people that, and I don't know if this rings a bell with anybody, but I was one of those people that would I would sit in. This is primary school back in England, so this is kind of up to 11 years old, 5 to 11, and I would sit in the classroom and just kind of be looking out the window and just be daydreaming about wanting to go out and run. I used to write about running, so I'd kind of write stories about running and being an Olympic athlete and these kind of things. But it was like I couldn't wait to, as soon as it was playtime or break time, then as long as the weather was good, and of course we had quite a lot of rain in England, then I would just shoo straight out onto the field, kick my shoes off, run barefoot on the grass. And it was a fabulous, it was a great experience, and really, that's to some extent partly what my life is about doing now, as well, is encouraging the athletes that come to our camps or that I work with to also play as well, because we can take our lives and ourselves so seriously, and that's not necessarily helpful to us in terms of longevity. And so I think it's really important for us to stay connected with our younger selves, and to make sure that we stay connected with our ability to play. And I don't know about you, but whenever we do play, then it lifts our spirits. It's like I just think of so many examples of, if you want to lift the spirits in a particular atmosphere, then just start some kind of play situation. And of course, one way we can do that is I like to get things running around. So if I'm working with a group of people, then one thing we'll do is get the group running around, and it just kind of lifts spirits. It just raises your blood pressure, your breathing rate a bit, your heart rate too, and it just lifts your spirits. It makes us feel good. Excuse me. And nature has given us this wonderful way of making sure that we're connected, that we can feel playful. And trail running, and as Eli said, I'm an avid trail runner. I actually, excuse me, I was going to have a quick drink. Cheers, folks. So I arrived here in Colorado as a road runner, and I'd run, some cross country and that kind of thing back in school, but for the last however many years it was, then I've been mainly running on roads, and I'd done kind of London Marathon 5 times, a New York Marathon, and different road events and things, and I'd had some fun, but but then I came to Colorado here, And initially we were 3 months down in Boulder and started running trails, and it was like, oh my God, why did I not know about this before? And trails for me give me such an opportunity to play in lots and lots of different ways. And it's just such a an incredible opportunity, a playground, to get out on trails. So these are some of the things I love doing. So I love to use kind of rocks as kind of launching pads. And so often if there's a rock on the trail in front of me, then you know, I'll be with a group maybe, and some people will run around the rock. Well, I'm the kind of guy that likes to kind of step up on the rock and then kind of launch myself off the top of the rock. I also love to bounce off trees, especially if there's like a tree kind of close to the side of the trail, or maybe on a switchback, a kind of 180 bend on the trail. And then also routes, you know, that again, a lot of runners will kind of try to avoid routes, but again, for me, it's like, this is an opportunity for me to have some playtime, to kind of use it to launch myself up. And then, you know, on the trails around here, around me in Estes Park in Colorado, then, you know, we've got plenty of options and opportunities to do some climbing. And I love doing that. I have to say, though, that that's not, although I love running uphill, my favorite part is downhill. And so I just love, you know, flying down hills, and just kind of sometimes, you know, getting on the kind of edge of like feeling like I'm almost out of control here, but not quite, and just kind of playing with that, with those situations. And then the other thing that I love doing, which I haven't mentioned here, is fartlek runs. So I was planning on doing that this morning. Didn't work out this morning, but that's cool. I'll have another opportunity. And fartlek, you know, probably all of you have heard the word before, but fartlek is a Swedish word meaning speed play. And when I used to do fartlek runs back in England, then I used to do it kind of from lamppost to lamppost, or you know, from block to block, or, you know, something like that, from turning to turning. And sometimes we used to do it on old railway tracks that have been turned into pedestrian paths. And we do it from kind of signal box to a bridge, or, you know, something like that. But here now on trails, then it's like there's so many natural features around us that we can use to indicate, you know, where we pick up and where we relax back, and how long we have for recovery, and all these kind of things. So yeah, trail running for me is like an incredible playground. I just love it so much, and it's really great. I had an idea that Eli was a trail runner too, but I didn't know for sure. But we had a quick conversation before this session started, and it was great to hear that he also loves trail running too. And you know, that's part of why I put on the US Trail Running Conference, is because the sport has become so important to me. So passionate about it, and I really think it's like, you know, running for me is like, you know, running on the roads is therapy for my body. Running in nature is therapy for my mind, and but then running on trails is therapy for my soul. And, you know, it kind of touches all the bases, and is a really incredible place to play. So moving on to living in the present moment. So I've been here in Colorado 14 years now, and definitely trail running has taught me the importance of living in the present. And certainly I've had some tumbles, some moments when I've ended up flat on my face, or off the side of the trail somewhere. And but it's in those moments, it's always been when when I've lost focus, you know, when my mind has, for whatever reason, gone somewhere else other than where I am right now. And so I think it's really important for us to live in the present. And I want to share with you at least one really important reason why it is important. So 2013, so 7 years ago now, over 7 years ago now, I broke my right femur, and which was no fun. I do not recommend it at all. It was ironically, you know, having spent kind of several years bouncing off rocks and trees and jumping in the air and stuff on mountain trails, that I was actually walking to my car and slipped at the end of a run, slipped on black ice and went down full body weight on my right hip. And that impact broke my femur. I didn't know what I'd done at that moment, except that it hurt like hell, and and I couldn't get up. And then I had somebody help me up, and I got up on my feet and went to put my weight on my right leg and nearly passed out. And I was like, something's wrong here. And my leg, although it wasn't grotesque, it was just kind of like slightly out of kind of normal shape. And so anyway, I went to ER, and an orthopedic surgeon friend of mine came out with the x-rays and said, "You've broken your femur." And so I had surgery like as soon as possible. And yeah, it was, thankfully everything went really well. But I then, you know, for anybody that's been in this kind of situation, I don't know if this has happened to you as well, but I then started to go through this. I was literally kind of on a seesaw. So one moment I was like giving myself such really hard time for being such an arsehole and slipping on this ice, and breaking my leg and breaking my femur. And like, which wasn't helpful at all. And then I'd switch and like, I can't wait for this to be over so that I can start running again. And I'd literally find my attention seesawing between these two, the past and the future. And it was such a frustrating place to be, because I just didn't feel like I had any control. You know, it was like I was just kind of completely passive, if you like, in this situation, and just kind of sat on this seesaw, and it's like bang, 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 and just so frustrating. And then one day it suddenly struck me, and I was like, healing takes place in the present. And, you know, life takes place in the present. And from that moment onwards, I decided to, every day, I was going to focus my attention on actually helping my body heal. So rather than do this seesawing stuff and do nothing really, apart from stay where I was, then I was going to focus my attention and help myself heal. And so what I did was I came up with a healing script for an imagery session. And literally what I would imagine is the two pieces of my femur. I would imagine the two pieces of the femur linking up together, and I would imagine new bone cells joining up the two pieces of the femur. And so every day I would just spend some time every day thinking about building new bone and building that joint for my femur. And it was, I think I was out for 15, 16 weeks altogether. But boy, what a difference it made to my experience going through that. And I was also getting kind of really peed off, because you know, there's a group of us that went running every Sunday here in the mountains, and I wasn't able to do that. And I was like, oh shoot. But once I'd had this epiphany in terms of the healing and the imagery session, then I was like, okay, I may not be able to run, but I can still get out and enjoy the trails. I can go and walk the trails. I can still socialize with my running friends. I don't need to stop a big part of this experience of being outside in nature that I love. And so it was a number of things kind of really fell into place there. And I think when we live in the past, we can often feel depressed and regretful. And I certainly know that was true with that situation with my femur for me. And when we live in the future, we can feel anxious and worried. And, you know, one of the things that the surgeon had said to me was that, you know, hey, I need to let you know this, you know, in terms of focusing on fear that I mentioned earlier, that he said, you know, the femoral artery runs through the bone. And he said there is a chance that when the bone heals up, that the femoral artery doesn't heal up properly, and so you don't get blood supply to the head of the femur. And if that happens, you get necrosis of the femur, and then you need a hip replacement. And then he said, you're not running. So I'm like, oh, shoot. And so, of course, as so often happens, my attention went to the fear, you know, what I don't want to happen. And that was a real eye-opener for me in terms of the importance of the way we think and our mindset. If we live in the future, then we can often feel anxious and worried. And what we need to do is to focus in the present. And when we're in the present, we're at peace and alive. It's and it's a great place to be. And there is no better place to be than here, right now, at this moment. And we also lose our ability to broaden our vision and then miss the incredible opportunities that life gives to each and every one of us. And yeah, so for me, then, you know, it's like when I was a younger guy, then I used to be so pessimistic. I used to be so down on myself. I used to hate myself. It was horrendous. And, you know, so I was not enjoying the present moment because the present moment wasn't a place where I was happy with myself. And only once I learned to become happy with myself and to love myself, then I was able to see all these things that were just incredible that are in our lives. And yeah, it's just been a pretty amazing journey. So inspiration, I mentioned inspiration. So this woman, Hurricane Hawkins, that I don't know if she's come into your world at all, but she's I think she's still 103 years old, but she I think it was last year set a world record for 50 meters and 100-meter dash. And she's just an incredible example of, for me, of it's like, okay, I want to be doing what she's doing now when I'm 103 years old, you know, and so what do I need to do to make sure that I can do what she's doing at 103 years old? And so hopefully a number of the things that I've mentioned already are things that will give you some tips in terms of helping you to achieve that. But her key tip is look for magic moments and keep your eye open for them. And I love this. And she mentioned a few things. So sunsets and sunrises, yeah. And when you think about it, when you look at some of the imagery on Instagram or somewhere like that, then it's like, you know, some of the most popular pictures you've ever seen are sunsets and sunrises. Yeah, there's a good reason, because they are magic moments. They're just incredible reminders of the incredible complexity and beauty of nature, but how each sunset and sunrise is unique. It's different from the one before, and that's true of every day in our lives. Rainbows, and again, you know, pictures of rainbows, beautiful birds. Yeah, I'm here in Colorado, then fell in love with hummingbirds. Just amazing, incredible small birds, but so beautiful. Music and singing, then, you know, so important for us in terms of our ability to lift spirits and make us feel good. People's comments, so people making positive comments about you, and then nature and animals. And, you know, so very important reminders. And then A little bit about our mindset programs. So we do what we call a runner's mindset program. It's a 21-day program delivered by email to help runners focus on their many positives. And I really created this program this year to help people when there's next to no races happening. You know, so as runners, we tend to define ourselves by, you know, our last performance in terms of a race. And so this program was designed to really help runners focus on how many positives they have. And there are always tons and tons of positives. Then activacuity is an app available in iOS only, provides a mental training program for athletes of all abilities and ages, using the power of positive psychology. And yeah, it's a very powerful app, and I'm very proud of what we developed there. And then contact me, so Terry at Active at Altitude for more details. And I'd love to hear from you, and also hear about what has been, you know, your mindset challenges, and any of the wins that you've had in terms of using strategies and so on that you've used. Yeah, thank you again to Eli and Gnarly for this opportunity. And Eli, I don't know if we had any questions on the way through, but would love to hear from you if you have anything from your side now.
Yeah, anybody have any questions, you're welcome to go ahead and ask them right now. Again, you can use the bottom right corner. One of the things that I wanted to just mention and talk with you maybe a little bit about, Terry, is
sure
that I really liked about Hurricane Haken.
Oh yes, yes.
So that fits really into this subject that we're talking about, and
absolutely.
This idea that she had, or of looking for magic moments. The way that I translated that is, you know, as we maybe move into, whether it's we get older, or maybe we've had some sort of injury that has changed, you know, the way that we specifically perform, in this case running, right?
Yeah.
And so we have to work on a mindset change, that maybe, you know, the thing that we were chasing before, whether it was podium or maybe a PR, or, you know, some part of our performance that was really driven to be competitive, that a mindset change when an event happens, or as we start to progress in our age or whatever, and that we start looking for these magic moments. And in other words, you know, the goal doesn't always have to be the same that it has been in the past, right?
Yeah.
And we can still change what that goal is, or what these magic moments are. And those moments can still be the thing that fuels our fire, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Eli, that's so important. And I was actually thinking about including this, but it's like for the last 2 weeks, then I've been looking for magic moments on every run that I've been out on in the last 2 weeks, and there is always something. There, you know, I mean, I've come back from every run for the last 2 weeks, and it's like every run has been something that has lifted my spirits, that made me feel alive. Makes me feel grateful for the opportunity that I have to still be running. You know, it's you know, I know a lot of people have said to me, you know, well, haven't your knees worn out yet? And you know, for example, and I'm like, I'm like, well, actually, no, my knees are doing really fine. And you know, there's almost like this expectation that kind of that some people have, I think, in terms of running, especially, that, you know, it's not good for us in terms of longevity. But I think a lot of that is then about experiences that maybe some people have had, where they have been focused on performance goals rather than focused on the experience, on the process. And so that can make a big difference for sure. Yeah, no, that's a really good point, Eli. And yeah, being able to change that mindset, I think is such an important thing. And I mean, one of the beauties about us as a species is that we're not hardwired. So, you know, if we have a certain way of thinking about something, if it's not if it's not something that that is helpful to us, then maybe we need to change it. You know, and then it's, I mean, like I said, I used to be somebody who was very pessimistic. I would not have imagined myself, you know, going back quite a few years, that I would not have imagined myself working with groups of athletes. I'd have like, I was more comfortable, you know, shut away in my bedroom with the door closed. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
I would never have believed that about you.
Sorry?
I would never have believed that about you.
Well, exactly. But then I didn't, I mean, it got to a point in my life where I was like, okay, you know, the way I'm thinking about myself is not truly me. You know, it's just stuff that I've learned, and I've got stuck with it. And so what do I need to do to change things so that I get unstuck? And so, you know, mindset, our ability to change our mindset, we can do that any point we like, any time in our lives, any situation, and create a new response, which is, you know, more helpful to us, more supportive, and that kind of thing. Yeah. Eli, got a question from Linnell.
Yeah.
So Linnell, you running at altitude for a race when living at sea level. Yeah, so that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, one of the things I recommend is really, again, to use the power of your imagination, because the hardest thing, you know, we can talk about the kind of physical training, in the sense that you can, you know, if you're coming to run at altitude, then it makes sense to be in kind of the best physical shape that you can be. So that's a kind of given. But then the biggest challenge about coming to altitude is our ego, and so the you know, what we tend to do is we always want to, when we go to altitude from lower elevations, then we always want to be able to run at the same pace that we run at home, and that can't happen. Nobody can do it. You know, we've worked with Olympic level athletes here in Colorado, who you know, everybody has to slow down. It doesn't matter what pace you run at. There is less available oxygen, and so what we need to do is to actually get in touch, with our breathing. And so what I do when I work with athletes on this, is I ask them to think about their last long run that they had at home, and then I get them to just kind of remember all the details about their last long run, but to focus on their breathing. And then what happens is I say, okay, notice how deep your breathing is. Yeah. Notice how frequently you're breathing. Yeah. Notice the intensity of your breathing. Notice all these qualities. And then what you do is that's your breathing benchmark, because that when you do a long training run, that's effectively your kind of breathing benchmark to enable you to do a long run wherever you are at home. You take that same breathing benchmark and use it at altitude. And you can also do this before you come to altitude. So you don't have to wait to come to altitude. You can think about this before you actually come. And so you can use your breathing benchmark, and then just imagine yourself running at altitude using that same breathing intensity, using the same breathing rate and everything else. And of course, what that means is once you get to altitude, you've already got yourself dialed in in terms of how you're going to think and feel when you're running. Yeah. And so Linnell, hopefully, I mean, that's a quick run through, but hopefully that helps. And yeah, we found that a really effective mechanism for helping people when they come to altitude. But as I said, the biggest challenge is actually leaving your ego behind. And once you do that, then it's like, you know, the magic happens. And because, you know, so often we see with runners, you know, we try to run at the pace that we normally do, and of course we get into oxygen debt. We have to slow down. We don't feel good, and it's like then we start beating ourselves up, and so, you know, you can often end up having, in a beautiful place, a beautiful opportunity in a well-organized race, having a crap experience because, you know, you're in a situation where you're giving yourself a hard time, you're physically beating yourself up, and so on. So yeah, it's with, you know, with more and more races. I mean, vacation races, for example, you know, do a lot of races. Their half marathon series, a lot of those are at altitude, including they do one here in Rocky Mountain National Park, the Rocky Mountain Half Marathon. And yeah, it's great to see, you know, so many people having a really good experience and enjoying their races at altitude, because there's no reason why not. I think altitude is the best. You know, it's I think it gets a hard rap, and I think it's actually, you know, it's one of the best places we can ever run, because it's usually clean, clear air. We got mountain views. You know, we got snow-capped peaks. You know, it's like what could be better? You know.
I did a race, I think it was about 2 years ago. So it was a shorter race. It was at a basin, Arapahoe Basin out there in Colorado. And I think you start somewhere about 12K. And that was a wild race. I'll tell you what. If anybody else has any other questions, we have time for one more. There is one that has been submitted, Terry.
Oh, cool.
Craig asks, as an older athlete, 49, climbing, although some the Pike Peaks ascent.
Oh, Pikes Peak, yeah.
How do you handle the aging process in terms if your body's changing?
Okay. Well, it kind of touches on something I mentioned earlier. I think to some extent is about letting go of what you can't control. Well, one of those things is, you know, we can't control the biological clock. So, you know, aging is a natural part of our process. But what we can do is definitely work on our mindset. And so, you know, if you're thinking about climbing, especially, then, you know, Pikes Peak ascent is a ton of climbing, a whole bunch of climbing. Then, you know, again, what we can do is use our imagination, but in a positive, directed way. You know, Craig, I don't know if you have run Pikes Peak ascent already, but maybe you've been there and checked it out. I'm not sure. But one thing to do is to just imagine yourself. And so if the pull, if you like, the fear is that, you know, I'm not strong enough for this. I'm too old for this. Whatever the fear part is, then in your imagination, spin that around. Yeah. So take a complete 180. And instead of focusing on the fear of what you think is going to hold you up and create a roadblock for you, then instead put in place what is positive about you. Yeah. So what is your strength? Yeah. I think part of the problem that we have in terms of aging is that there's so much around us which is often subliminal to some extent. You know, so it's like, I mean, Eli, you pointed out the 66 years old. You know, where it's like it's I don't feel old. Yeah, 66 years young. And so it's like just changing the words, again, that kind of internal dialogue, and the words that we use to not only describe ourselves, but describe, you know, who we are or what our performance is. And so, you know, it's like you might feel like you're not that good and not strong running up hills, especially at Pikes Peak. But you know, but the reality is, if you start to think about how good you are, how positive you can think about yourself, and use your imagination in that way, then you have an opportunity to actually get in touch and perform the way that you really can. Because I think a lot of the time we end up with all this negative stuff that goes on in our minds, that it's like carrying a weight on your back. Yeah, and it's like a weight vest or something like that, or a parachute, is great for resistance training, but sometimes we carry it around with ourselves all the time, and we just don't let it go. And it's like, no wonder, no wonder we end up, you know, giving ourselves a hard time. And of course, then that just reaffirms the way we think about ourselves. However, the way we think about ourselves is often not based in reality. It's based on something which is not true, which I was trying hard not to get politics involved in this, but yeah, it's yeah. I think a lot of the ways we think about ourselves negatively is like 99% of it is not based in reality. You know, so it's like I grew up as a young boy. I was super lean, super skinny. And you know, I can remember my teachers and coaches at school kind of saying, you know, you're not strong enough, and that was something I kind of carried through my life for a long time, until I realized that I am strong enough. It's like, you know, once I switched again my mindset, so that I don't have to agree with this anymore. This is not helping me. You know, if I want to be an athlete, the kind of athlete that I want to be, then thinking to myself all the time, I'm not strong enough, is that going to help me? No. Yeah. So Craig, I hopefully that helps. And Linnell, thank you for, I don't know if you're still on, but thank you for your response then. And I'm glad I could help with creating an altitude mindset for you.
Good. Terry, did you see Monica's comment to you as well?
Oh, oh, Monica. Yeah.
Very, very, very complimentary. I just wanted to make sure you saw that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Monica. Bless you. Yeah. Thank you so much. Really good to get your feedback. And yeah. That's made my evening.
Really generous. Terry, it's been a delight. Thank you for sharing with us these mindset strategies and getting us to think a little bit differently about these things. It's been a pleasure to be with you. Cool.
Eli, same here. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity and for this for the cool program. I think you're doing a wonderful thing. So so glad to be a part of it.
Everybody, thanks for joining us. Have a wonderful evening and a great holiday.
Yes, happy holidays, everyone.
Run out there safely.
Yeah, run long.
See you, Terry.
Okay, cheers, Eli. Bye for now.